With AMD releasing the Threadripper 7000 series for DIY users, do you think AMD will continue releasing processors for DIY users? Or do you think it will flip right back to OEM only, despite Intel?
Okay, this question requires a little bit of background. Luke, how up on the Threadripper shenanigans that AMD has pulled are you?
They did it. Everyone was stoked on it. They weren't going to do it anymore, and then they did it again.
Okay, that's a very, very succinct summary, but not a very accurate one.
Okay.
So why don't we improve on that a little bit? I'll give you guys a bit more background. Threadripper launched alongside, or I think shortly after, the original Ryzen 1000. It was the same Ryzen chiplets, but many, many more of them. And I believe the first generation went up to, I want to say, 16 cores, or was it 32? Whatever the Threadripper 1950X was. Let's have a quick looky-boo. No information available for this page. Oh man. Now I'm not going to get it right. I jinxed it.
Nice and succinct, Linus.
I jinxed it. I think
yours isn't succinct or accurate.
Okay, I think the 1950 was 16. Okay. Was there a 1970 though?
This is like gray market Threadripper information.
Can you
Gray
not?
market tech tips.
Can you not?
Threadripper was a CPU.
No, I was accurate. The first family went up to 16 cores, and the 1950X. Okay. What was cool about Threadripper was that compared to consumer platforms, it had mondo memory bandwidth and a ton of PCIe connectivity. Compared to server platforms or traditional workstation platforms, it didn't support nearly the same amount of system memory, which was considered kind of an Achilles heel, because you had all these cores. 16 cores in the 1000 series, up to 32 cores in the 2000 series, which ballooned to up to 64 cores in the 3000 series, which is flippin' wild. But the 3000 series, if I recall correctly, was limited to, I want to say, 256 megabytes of system memory. So you had all this bandwidth, you had all this PCIe connectivity, you had all this compute, but you couldn't attach that much RAM to it, which was AMD's way of ensuring that they would have a way to differentiate their workstation and their server products from their enthusiast Threadripper products. Now, as we made our way from 1000 series Threadripper to 2000 series Threadripper to 3000 series Threadripper, some stuff happened that was a little bit different from how AMD handled the consumer side of things. The first two Threadrippers were on socket LGA, I can't remember. Hold on. Yeah, okay, this summary article that I'm looking at. Oh yeah, there we go. Socket STR4. And while on the consumer side of things, we got Ryzen 1000, 2000, 3000, all on the AM4 platform. In fact, all the way up to Ryzen 5000 stayed on the AM4 socket. For Threadripper, that actually changed when they went to Zen 2 with Threadripper 3000, and we got socket TRX4. Now, the problem with that is that AMD committed at that time, hey, we're sorry for changing away from socket TR4 and moving over to TRX4. Our bad. We know we want to have better socket continuity than Intel, and all we managed to do was Zen and Zen Plus on this one. We're going to do better next time. And then they promptly did not do better at all. Not only did we not get any new CPUs for that socket. So not only did they change sockets on us, but we never got a single CPU upgrade for that platform. Threadripper 3000 never got a follow-up. And from my understanding, based on leaks, based on rumors that I have personally participated in, it's not because they weren't done. They were basically done, the product. So updated Zen 3 chips for STRX4, and they just didn't release them because it wasn't nearly as profitable as releasing workstation or server chips under the Threadripper Pro branding, which would come later, actually 2.5 years later, on socket W for workstation, WRX8. So what we got was Threadripper 1000 on STR4, Threadripper 2000 on STR4, Threadripper 3000 along with a big boatload of broken promises on STRX4, and then we got Threadripper 5000 Pro only on that workstation platform. And they just never bothered with Threadripper 5000 non-Pro, which was a giant loogie in the face of everyone who invested in STRX4, like me, to the tune of like a dozen workstations, expecting to have upgrades available for it, which never arrived. Because for video editing, we do need a fair amount of system memory, but we don't need more than, I forget if it was 256. I think it was 256 gigs of RAM. That's actually lots for us. We're not doing simulation work or AI work or anything like that. It's plenty for video editing. We just want the performance and we want the PCIe connectivity so we can plug in extra devices like high speed, fiber optic network cards and stuff like that. So what was the question again? Right.
I'm still not certain if what I said was actually incorrect. I think it was just way too short.
Yeah. So
I didn't realize we were doing like a whole history.
Coming back to Anonymous's question here. With AMD releasing Threadripper 7000 for DIY users, not just for, workstation integrators, do you think AMD will continue releasing these processors for DIY, or do you think it'll flip right back to system integrators only? Oh yeah, there was a short period of Threadripper Pro where it was system integrators only. You couldn't even buy them more broadly, but 5000 you could buy, assuming you could afford them, because they went up to like $8,000 when the previous ones were not that expensive because they were meant for consumers. The answer is, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because they're lying assholes. The fact that AMD gets a free pass from enthusiasts for, being an underdog or whatever it's baffling to me. They're also a company. They're also interested in one thing, just like an Intel or just like an Nvidia. I shouldn't say just like an Nvidia. Nvidia's got their own sort of, they have a particularly brazen manner of pursuing.
Actively and openly dislike a large section of their consumer base.
Okay, so this is one of those things that's complicated. Every time we kind of get into this, it's like, okay, corporately, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I've met so many passionate individuals.
Not individually, no.
Yeah,
and
okay.
I have as well, for sure.
Yeah.
I know some people at NVIDIA that are great people. But just like the corporate actions, the business actions are...
Yeah, so we just need to not believe them. I mean, we can, when we do a video about it, if AMD says, we're going to support this socket for several generations and we're going to do this and we're going to do that, we'll tell you, hey, they say that, but we're also not going to ignore those broken promises from the past. And I think AMD has shown that they are capable of doing short-run processors like those cool X3D chips that they dumped a while ago at Micro Center and somewhere else. I forget who had them in stock. It is conceivable that they could offer an upgrade to Threadripper 3000 users still, but they won't. They don't wish to. And I don't know. I'm very frustrated. The good news is that these days, I do also kind of get it. Now that we have consumer chips that are anywhere from 16 to 24 cores, depending on whether you're on the Intel or AMD side of things, I think the necessity of a high-end desktop platform is less, but I am also glad to see them make a return, even if I don't have a lot of trust that they will continue to support it.